Alright guys, for today I wanted to do something a little bit different. Instead of just talking about a build and showing you how it functions. I thought what might be useful for some people is how to even go about deciding what perks to put in a build. So there's a new one that I've been working on. And of course, I'm always tweaking things and seeing how things synergize, but I can at least kind of go through and show you my own personal process. So if I go to the most recent build that I've set up on Ghostface, you will see that I've got the tier 3 barbecue and chili. Now that was one I identified early on because the benefits of getting the cannibal prestiged up to 3 are immense. It dropped the distance that it activates. At tier 1, the yellow perk, when you prestige 1 on everybody, the distance on that specific ability is when they're further than 60 meters from the hook, which on a big map can occasionally proc, but when you prestige to 3, you get aura reading for 4 seconds if anybody's further than 40 meters. That 20 meters difference is huge, so that was an easy one for me to identify. Then if I look at the second perk, this is Prestige 3 I just got in Ghostface's Bloodweb. This is another one that I've been playing around with. I already prestiged him, you can see, up to tier 1, because this is one of the perks that I wanted to get unlocked for everybody for builds. So if we look at Ghostface right now, you'll see you know, the key elements you're looking for are the numbers here. 48 meters, aura revealed for 6 seconds, and can be triggered once every 40 seconds. Now, if I jump back over to, say, I think I might have that on the Wraith right now, so let me just jump over and show you what it looks like. The exact same perk, but at tier 1, still 48 meters, still revealed for 6 seconds, but it triggers once every 60 seconds. So for every level of prestige on the Ghostface that I unlock, it's going to drop 10 more seconds off. Since obviously we know tier 3 I have on Ghostface triggers once every 40 seconds versus this tier 1 is 60 seconds. That's a pretty significant bump, so this is definitely one that I want to eventually get up to Prestige 3, but kind of the order of operations is really what I'm looking at here. And the Wraith is another good one that I can compare directly back to Ghostface. So Lethal Pursuer, this is a Nemesis perk. I have him up to tier 1. I just happened to get that perk at tier 3 in Ghostface's Bloodweb. But if you look at it here on tier 1, aura revealed for 7 seconds, and anytime an aura is shown, its duration is increased by 2 seconds. Now if I jump back over to Ghostface again and look at the tier 3 perk, you'll see that that same perk, the aura is revealed for 9 seconds, and it still extends the duration anytime an aura reading perk gives you by 2 seconds. So what you get back out of this by getting it up to Prestige 3 is not as massive a difference. So yes, I will eventually get everybody prestiged up to Prestige 3, but that extra second per level of prestige is not where I want to focus my blood points, at least for now. And then this last one here, Starstruck, this is another great one to show as an example. 30 seconds is how long it lasts on tier 3, and it has a cooldown of 60 seconds. Now if I jump back over to the Trickster here, where I've only prestiged 1 and didn't unlock a tier 3 in his Bloodweb, if I hover over it, you'll see the effect persists for 26 seconds, and it still has a 60-second cooldown. So that's another one where for each prestige level, the effect only persists 2 additional seconds. It's nice to have, but what you get back out of it as you're working on builds is not as great. So these are kind of the things that I initially am homing in on when I'm deciding what I want to prestige, who I want to unlock, and what builds I want to craft. Now, in terms of where do you even start to try to figure these out, like, the best way is literally to just go down the line, click on the killer, click on the character info, and then you will see what their individual perks are, at tier 3. It's always going to show you the stats for tier 3. So you'll notice that I haven't prestiged Wraith. He's one of my favorite characters in the game, but frankly, his abilities are, for me at least, not all that useful. I'm not saying that they're pointless abilities, I'm just saying that there are far better options in the game. So as you're going through the build, this is the process that I would recommend following. Just click on the name, click on the character info button, and scroll over to see exactly what it says about the ability. Now, if you're in doubt as to the differences between the tiers, if you've been playing for a little while, chances are, as you've leveled up any of your killers and gone through the blood web, that you're going to have some of the other killers' abilities already unlocked at different prestige levels, so you can just directly jump back over to the killer's perk in question and see what the difference is. Here's another good example, the Hillbilly. If we jump in, one of his key perks that is, I don't think anybody would deny that this is an extremely powerful perk, Lightborn, but it's one that I see that a lot of people don't put in their builds. They'll kind of load into a game, and if they see a bunch of flashlights, then they'll swap something off to put this on for quality of life. But this does actually also have an aura reading element built into it anyway. So you'll see at tier 3, Prestige of the Hillbilly, you get aura revealing for 10 seconds. That is the difference in what the prestige level does on that ability. So if I go back over to my Wraith loadout, I have Lightborn on him 6 seconds. So for every prestige level you would do on the Hillbilly, it adds 2. Yeah, aura reading is nice in this, but really the base perk itself is the reason that this perk is powerful. It's not really the amount of time you can potentially get aura reading. It's the fact that you become immune to flashlights, firecrackers, flashbangs, and blast mines, all of which prevents you from being stunned while you're playing the game. So these are the main things that I'm looking at. Now, how I actually come up with builds themselves, it's frankly just time in the saddle and scrolling through, and once you play enough and you look at enough of the abilities that pop up not only for the individual killer in question, but also in the blood web, there are non-killer related perks that pop up often, like No One Escapes Death. That's not tied to any specific killer, that can just pop up in the blood web. But what I'm looking for is just reading the perk base, seeing what it says about it, then determining if I think that it's an ability that would be useful on multiple killers. So the Cannibal is another good one. I prestiged him 3 because of barbecue and chili, but if we look over at his other perks, you'll see that he does also have some other useful perks, neither of which I have done on any current builds because I'm kind of starting in a different direction in areas that I think would be fun for me, but also kind of useful for other people to see just how these perks synergize. So pretty much everybody knows that this is a god tier perk in the game, no question about it. As a killer, you want to get this unlocked and you want to get it prestiged up to tier 3 as quickly as possible to have it as an option on all of your killer builds. Not saying that you would always use it, but just having it in your back pocket is powerful. His other abilities, Franklin's Demise, I occasionally see this in other killer builds when I'm playing Survivor, and Knockout isn't one that I see all that often, but I just kind of look and read and see what it does. This one's powerful because it can destroy the ability for survivors to be able to use their items. It could be health kits, it could be flashlights, whatever the case may be. With this perked, when you damage them, it's going to drop to the ground. And if they don't get it picked up, say you're in the middle of an epic chase, it's going to lose all of its charges and become completely useless for them. And then this other one over here is just another one that I would look at. So it's kind of a very specific thing. It's got to do with after you hit him, when they're in the down state, having slower speeds for recovery and movement. That's useful, but to me there are better perks in the game. So that's just kind of my process. And just as kind of an advice perspective for somebody maybe that isn't all that good playing killer or doesn't even know where to start, great 3 places to start, all of which I have done on my channel to date are going to be three kind of main key areas that I think are the best places to look for synergies. The first would be aura reading. You cannot possibly discount how powerful aura reading abilities are in this game. There are some that I think are absolute top god tier level status, and then some that are just, okay, it's a nice little added bonus, but maybe it's not going to be a core of your build. So anything that gives aura reading, like barbecue and chili from the cannibal. Another massive one, this is also absolutely god tier, which is why I did finally prestige the Nemesis up to tier 1, just as another good example. This one right here, Lethal Pursuer. I would argue that this is the single strongest aura reading perk in the game, because from the very beginning in the match, you can see exactly where all of the survivors are and beeline straight to them. And then it's also got that added bonus on the bottom. Anytime a survivor's aura is shown to you, that gets extended by 2 additional seconds. So any other aura reading abilities that you have, this plays into it by giving you 2 more additional seconds to hone in on where that survivor is. So this and barbecue and chili, I would say, are 2 absolute god tier perks in this game. So these are kind of the things that I'm looking for. Anytime it says aura reading, that's what I'm honing in when I'm thinking about an aura reading build. And maybe you make go full nerd and you make an Excel spreadsheet and just start labeling all the abilities in the game that you see and writing out what they do, and then you can start categorizing them, or you take a notebook and paper at your Xbox or computer while you're playing and just start writing them down. You will start learning what these perks are. But that's kind of the 3 areas I would focus first. Aura reading, because it's always going to give you a massive leg up throughout the match. The second major area of focus is going to be anything related to generators, specifically generator regression, and or also giving you the ability to see different status changes on generators. So the Doctor has a really fun one that I prestiged him to tier 1 minor just to get it going. His perk in question is right here, Overcharge. Anytime you kick a generator, it's going to apply overcharge to it. And then for X amount of seconds, depending on the tier of the perk, it's going to regress from its standard rate of 75 to 200% its normal regression. So this, anytime you kick, it also has some side perks, like anybody that comes back up is, to try to work on it after you've applied overcharge, they're going to get hit with a skill check and a hard one, and if they don't pass it, then it regresses additionally. So there's a lot of generator focused perks like that, and that's kind of the key things I'm looking at when I'm thinking about generator perks. If I want to go strictly generator perk builds, or if I'm looking for ones that might synergize with other builds I'm working on, that's kind of what you're honing in on, is kind of the second category. And the final category, and Freddy the Nightmare is the easiest and most obvious example, is going to be kind of in-game perks. So, things to help you out once they actually get all the generators done and they're trying to get out of there. Anything that can buy you more time, make their life more difficult to get that done, is going to squarely fall in the category of in-game perks. So Freddy has 2 of them, Blood Warden and Remember Me. And 2 of the stronger ones in the game for my opinion. Anything that puts additional time on them being able to get the gates open, and anything that blocks the gates from being able to be open in the first place. These are kind of the keys to in-game perks. In a nutshell, there are some others that also function in a similar manner, though not the same. No One Escapes Death, which has been converted into a hex perk now, is another great one. Most people would know about Noed. But those are the 3 kind of main categories that I'm personally looking for when I'm thinking about a build and playing with them, seeing how they're synergized together. Aura reading, generators, and in-game. Yes, there are other perk classifications in the game that give you different boosts, different boons, quality of life, or maybe you just want to try an atypical build. The Clown has one that is definitely, once I prestige it, going to be part of a non-standard build that I'm going to try for fun. But he's got a very strong build, perk in here, right here, Bamboozle. That is kind of the only one like it in the game for killers. You vault 15% faster. And if you vault, it's going to block that location for X amount of time based on the tier of the perk. So if you're playing high-level survivors that, do a lot of looping, this could be massively powerful, having that extra bit of speed. You can close the gap even quicker, and if they try to continually loop you and go back try to ring around the rosy, they're going to get blocked from being able to do that and put you in position to hopefully get that down, or at least get that hit and run hit in. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting ways to go about it. I don't think that this video needs to be super long, but I'm hoping just giving you an idea of what my process is, kind of what my advice would be, where to start, what to look for, is at least helpful to some of you when trying to determine what direction to go on killer perks and builds. There's a lot of ways to do it. I kind of like to focus one main track, and then I'll throw in just an added bonus or quality of life perk. So I will often roll, 3 aura reading perks plus, say, Lightborn, just to keep me from being slowed dead in my tracks by anybody that tries to flashbang or flashlight me. I would do the same for generators. Pig has one that I absolutely love, Surveillance, because it makes it so easy to see when people jump back on a generator that you've kicked, so there's actively someone on it because it changes colors. There's a lot like that, so I might pair that with the Doctor's perk that gives bigger regression. I might even pair it with the Call of Brind or Sadako's Merciless Storm. And then again, I might throw in a single aura reading perk to pair with that, or I might throw in Lightborn again for quality of life. But that's kind of my process. Everybody has their own process, and everybody has perks that they think are better than others. And, part of the fun of the game is coming up with new and interesting builds and trying out different perk combinations. But, yeah, that's pretty much it. Doesn't need to be super long. I just thought maybe this might be useful information to have. Like, how do you figure out? Well, it's just trial and error. Trial and error, time in the saddle, and then you'll kind of figure out which perks, as you play with them, work really well together for your play style and what it is you're trying to get out of the killer experience in DBD. Regardless, guys, I appreciate you checking in. Certainly, if you have any questions about, hey, what do you think about this perk, throw it down in the comments. I'm happy to give you my input on it. I am a returning player after a couple years off, but I have played a ton of this game. I really enjoy it, and I think part of the fun of this game, both on the survivor and the killer side, is just playing with interesting perk combinations. That's part of the fun, and yeah, it's definitely worth taking the time. But regardless, appreciate you checking in, guys. We will catch you on the next one.